Today we're talking all about how we can deal with strong negative emotions. Welcome to another video. For those of you who are new here, my name's Nena and I'm a life coach that specializes in personal development. Here at this channel, we talk about everything having to do with our emotional well-being, understanding our own psychology, and living our best life possible. So if you aren't already a subscriber, please go ahead and become one because we definitely want you to stay connected. Oftentimes as children, we are really taught to hide our negative emotions. So it makes a lot of sense that when we become adults, we really don't have a great understanding on how to handle them. We know it's not healthy to ignore these feelings, but we do want to handle them in a way that is the least painful. So today we're going to talk about all the steps that we can take to do exactly that. The first thing we have to acknowledge is our habits and our behavior about these negative emotions. So one thing that's really common is to handle negative emotions by doing something to soothe ourselves that is actually going to bring about a lot more negativity into our life. So it actually starts to create a vicious cycle. So we want to go ahead and give some thought to how we normally handle these negative emotions personally. So when these negative emotions come up for us, how are we most likely to respond? The second thing we really need to do is to stop assigning meanings to the emotion. We want to think about the emotion as it is on its own. So we have this negative emotion, let's say it's of guilt. So we want to learn to think about it as guilt and guilt alone without assigning a further meaning to it. So a further meaning could be that we are a bad person because we are experiencing this guilt. We want to just accept that these feelings are there. We want to acknowledge them. They were there to try to tell us something. And we want to just kind of, again, objectively observe them. So we want to not get attached to these feelings. We want to kind of distance ourselves away from these feelings and look at them from kind of another point of view. So we're going to, detach meaning from it and we're just going to simply observe. The next part is really going ahead and identifying the emotion. So you want to actually define the emotion. What am I going to call this emotion? And from there, you want to think about the root cause. So what was the trigger to cause me to feel this emotion? So what is it and what caused it? Now with this information, you can answer the next question, which is the most transformative at all. So think about that root cause, think about the experience that is causing the emotion and ask yourself this question. Does this experience require this emotion? Is there another emotion that I could choose to feel? Now, most of the time, once we give it enough thought, the answer is yes. We are actually always in control of our emotions, so there is always a different way that we can frame it. So for example, if the emotion is fear, and that fear is because we have to give a big speech the next day, we could reframe that emotion and decide to feel instead excited about the experience. Now, I know that seems a little intimidating and unrealistic at first, but this is actually a habit of behavior because again, we are always actually in control of our emotions. We are used to instead our emotions controlling us because that's how we have been conditioned, but that is something that we can certainly change about ourselves. We can also remind ourselves that there is an end to this emotion. There is an end to the experience and there is an end to the emotion. So this is not something that we are going to feel forever. This is very, very temporary. You can think about all the times in your life that you've had things that were just monumentally upsetting or terrifying to you that have no effect on you now whatsoever. So remind yourself that no matter what, you're going to get past this. This is always going to be a temporary experience. Even if it is a traumatic experience, it is going to be something that is going to be able to be resolved in some way in the future. Even if that resolution is just simply you dealing with it and getting past it. There's also a lot of positive strategies that we can use for negative emotions. And the first thing is to really focus on the present. So when we are focusing on this moment now, we can remember that there's nothing actually happening in this actual second. When we feel these negative emotions is because we are either thinking about something that happened in the past and we're, ruminating over that, or we are worried about something in the future. There's almost never something that is happening at this actual moment. So if we can pull ourselves back to the now, back to the present moment, we can actually start to feel a lot better. Another strategy that I find really helpful is to, instead of focusing inward, to focus outward. So instead of worrying about these emotions, we're going to use that energy to do something positive for someone else, let's say. So if you are, again, really stressing out about this negative emotion or this negative situation, you can instead go and volunteer or, help somebody with their homework or, anything that you can think of. But if you do something positive for someone else and you focus your energy outward, you are definitely going to feel better. It's impossible to feel, these negative emotions while you are feeling the positive emotion of being, helpful to another person. So that is a very effective strategy. You can also look for healthier ways to self-soothe. So instead of really focusing on these negative emotions, you can think about, going outdoors or meditating or reading, but you can find something that is a happy distraction that is going to be a lot more positive for you than sitting and thinking about these negative emotions and negative situations again after you've already addressed them. The last thing to remember is that we really need to stay on top of these negative emotions so they don't build up into something that is too overwhelming. So it is, very likely that you are in the habit, as most people are, of, pushing negative emotions away. We kind of push them away because we want to delay feeling the discomfort of these emotions. So it is important that we check in with ourselves, realize what we're feeling, and go ahead and address them and deal with them. This also can help us see what patterns are emerging for us and see, what triggers are causing these emotions. If we are thinking about them and we are using self-awareness, we can really gain a lot of information. So remember, you can always use this self-therapy whenever you are experiencing negative emotions. So you can kind of analyze it, observe it, and see the best way for you to move forward. But the last thing that you want to do is to ignore these emotions. You always need to acknowledge them so that you can move past them. So I hope this video was helpful to you, and if it was, please like it and share it with someone else who may need to hear this message today. Also, again, if you aren't already a subscriber, please go ahead and become one. We definitely want you to be part of our community, and I thank you so much for spending time with me today. Have an absolutely extraordinary day.